Guys, and welcome back to another part of our tutorial series, our RPG inventory series. And in this video we're gonna carry on now displaying the items we picked up. So in the previous video, what we did here, let me just remove this breakpoint here. We got to the point where we create all the logic. As you get the items, it actually add to the inventory. So I just want to show you here a nice technique to debug this, right? So I'm gonna do here is, if you go to content dash main components, open up your BC inventory, sorry. The method we're looking for, let me close everything here so we do this from scratch, is the one called inventory, add inventory item. So I'm gonna first click on this where it says category. I'm just gonna call this manage, and then I'm gonna put the inventory remove item and find inventory item. Yeah, because this is gonna get very tricky now. It's gonna get bigger and bigger, so it's always nice to just, you know, make sure is everything organized. Right, so if you open up this method again, find inventory, I just want to show you how this is working in real time, right? So what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna right click on this and I'm gonna search for something called toggle breakpoint. Yeah, or you can press F9, but I won't press F9 because otherwise I'm gonna stop recording. Right, I'm just gonna press play here, and right now if I try to pick up an item, you see that this execution will stop at this point. So if everything that we did in the code is right, it should hit this bit. So let's see if that's actually working. So what's doing here is triggering this add to inventory function. Let me open up this info screen. If I press this block here to go to the next node, it's setting whatever is the quantity to add, which is 2 right now, to this variable. Yeah. Now, if you press next again, is it coming here? And then it's basically saying, oh, is the item in the inventory? Right now, if you see that's called, it's coming as false. And if you see the index is 0 because it's the first one. So if you go next again and then press next one, right, it's gonna add a new inventory to our inventory on the key number 1. Yeah, and then if you also click on these actor items, we don't have anything yet. So if I press again here, now if you check these again, we should have another item. It's not showing up because it's refreshing. But if I press this button to refresh, the item should just disappear, right? And now if I go back in here and do it again, if this code is working properly, it should hit this bit, because at this point it's already finding the inventory. So let's see what's gonna happen. So if we're gonna press next, so it's 2 items, it's 3 now, right? So it's gonna go back. Have we found the item? Is that false? So it's coming to false. Sorry, it returns true at this point. Sorry, because it haven't hit that method yet. So it's true, and then it's setting the item on a key on a existing array, just increasing the stack, which right now is 3. So it will be 3 plus we don't have the debug data yet, but it should be 5 right now. So you're gonna press play and that should carry on and disappear the item. Right, so now I'm gonna just go ahead and here remove this breakpoint for now. Let me just remove that. What we want to do now is, as the player press tab, we show the item here. Remember that in the last episode we have set up the grid, so in this one we're gonna make this thing work as you get the items and carry on. Right, so to do this, guys, what we're gonna do here is close everything. I'm gonna open up my BPC inventory here, and I am gonna go here where it says UI. I'm gonna go and to the folder where is the inventory main. I'm gonna open up this, and we're gonna show and play around with this thing here, right? So to do that, what we're gonna do here is we're gonna go back on the BPC inventory where we have the start, where is it? Open main inventory here, right? So in here, we kind of have to pass the items that the player has, right? So to do this, we're gonna open up our main player inventory here, right? I'm gonna go to the graph and I am gonna go to variables, and I am gonna call this available items, or you can just call items. I'm just gonna call available items, and then this is gonna be st-items because that's the structure of the items. Make sure you click the eye here, which may make it public, and in here on the right panel here, make sure you mark expose on spawn. Remember, if you don't have those panels in there, for some reason you press delete, you should be able to find those panels in the windows in there, right? So right now we go the default value that make sure is array, yeah. So we go available items that is public, is exposed to spawn. That means that on object spawn that we're gonna be able to set up that array. And we're gonna have in here something called that we can actually gonna be using what is it? And is an array, means that we can pass multiple objects, right? So if you press save here, if you just compile and save, right now go back to the BC inventory, you right click in here, and then you press refresh, right? You see that you have available items, right? I'm gonna bring this actor items, I'm gonna press get, and I'm gonna hook this up here. Right, so now just for convenience, what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna rename actor items to the same thing, available items, just so it keep consistent, so we know what it is. You can rename to whatever you like, but I think it's nice for us to keep on the same track as this one. There's also another way to do this, that you could pass the component reference to the object, and then we do it like this, but maybe we can do this in a different manner, right? So first of all, what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna just do print, right? I'm gonna print a string, and let's see if this is working. Let's see if the player is getting the items. So I'm gonna just do something that will print how many items does the player have. You don't need to do this. I'm just want to show you what's gonna happen here. So if I press play and I press tab, it should say 0, right? So it's coming as 0. So if I come in here and press, I got the item. If I press tab again, it should say 1, which is nice, yeah? Which means that we have 1 item in the inventory. Remember, we have 1 item of 5 quantities, so it doesn't necessarily is gonna have 5 items. Right. So what we're gonna do here is I'm gonna close this, and now let's go back to our UI and let's do some design. Let's make this work in a better way. So remember that we have done this in the previous video, and then we have now the grid. So what I want to do here is I want to make sure that this piece of work is work as a standalone, yeah. So we can actually just spawn that part. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna go, where's my inventory? I'm gonna right click, I'm gonna go to user interface. Let me just do it again. I didn't want to create that. So right click, user interface, select the widget blueprint. Make sure you select user widget, yeah. We're gonna call this WBP slot item. Nice. And then I'm gonna open up this slot item there, and in here I'm gonna go, where's the size box, I'm gonna right click, press copy, come in here and press paste, right? Compile and save. Make sure that we set up this size to 90, and I think in here we can make sure is maybe custom. I'm just gonna make sure it fits the whole screen so we can work on this, but long story short, you can always go to custom and set up the size you wish to work, but for in this case we can leave it as fill. This will get automatic fill up as we go through, right? Nice. So we got that. Go back to inventory, and now we can delete this guy here. Just delete that, and now you should have the thing as empty, right? Now, so you have just the inventory grid. So you have just an empty grid that doesn't do anything yet. So if you press play, right now it should be empty. You just have the inventory there. Right. Okay, so we got that in place. Now, what I'm gonna do here is where it says event construct, I am gonna do a for each. So I'm gonna do a for each loop of this. And actually, what I'm gonna do here, guys, I'm gonna do something, because we using something called grid, right? In grids, you kind of have to tell every 4 rows you want to create a new row, and so on and so forward. So you kind of have to do a little bit of a logic around. So let's create a function to do this, because in a function we have some more freedom to create variables as we go through. Right, so let's create this function, and let's call this populate or update inventory items. Yeah, it doesn't really matter how you call the function, as long as it makes sense and then it's clear what it does, and then you're not gonna get lost once you come back to this code. You should be all right. Right, so what I'm gonna do here is I am gonna get that available items, and I'm gonna do the old, just good and old for each, right? For each loop, right? And then what I'm gonna do here is I'm gonna, as I do the loop, I'm gonna create a widget, right? And I am gonna do here, this is gonna be the inventory item. So in the widget, in the slot item, we're gonna need here something called, let me create a new variable on the WPP slot called item, right? And just change this to st item. Make sure it's public. Let me just make sure it's public. Make sure you mark expose on spawn. So as we spawn the item, we can actually send the item through. It's good. Make sure you refresh this, right? Sorry, refresh nodes. Yeah, so we need to select the class, otherwise it won't work. So it's WBP slot item. There we go. And now it's gonna ask for the item, right? Now we kind of have like a little problem now. Now we kind of have to set up the row column or something like this. So if you go in here, right, we need to find a way to set up the column of some kind. So what I'm gonna do here is I create this slot. I'm gonna get my grid there. I'm gonna bring the grid here, and I can do, I think it's add children, add child to uniform grid. There you go. So it's a node here called add child to uniform grid, and then I'm just gonna hook this up, and in the content we're gonna add this guy here. And now is where things get a little bit tricky, but we're gonna make this true, right? So what I want to do here, if you check in here, we're gonna is gonna ask for row and column. So let me explain how does this work. I know I show you guys how does work in previous videos, but I think it's just nice to give us a memory refresh, right? As you add item in here, for example, if I'm gonna call this 1, and I'm gonna copy and paste and call the other one number 2, right? If you see here, number 2 is not showing up. And the reason why it's not showing up is because we need to specific say that I want to use the row 2, or sorry, row 0, but I want to use the column 1, so it show up in that. So if I copy and paste another one, and then I say, oh, I want to go in here, let's say he used number 2, and then if you copy and paste here again, and then it goes, you make sure you want to use number 3. Remember, this is 0, 1, 2, and 3, so it goes a little bit like an array structure, but we kind of have to give that number, so we have to do some logic and work around to make that work dynamically for us. So to do that is quite straightforward, but let's first create a couple of variables. So on your populate or update inventory items, right, we're gonna create a local variable, and we're gonna call this grid space, right? And this is gonna be an integer value. This is not array, make sure it's a single. And we want to make sure that this is 4 slots, yeah? So 4 in the sense that it has 1, 2, 3, and 4 items gap. So every 4 items create a new row and a new row, that's how you call? A new, yeah, new row, because it's in here. it creates a new row and a column. Remember, if I go back in here, drag and drop this, and copy and paste, yeah, I'm just gonna leave this for now because so we don't get confused, because I am a little bit confused as well. But for example here, row, if you press number 1, is the line, and then if I want to create a new column, just press 1 and then it creates a new column there. So let's just leave those here for now so you can follow this. So we know that a column is the spaces between, so we kind of have to work out the column first. So what we're gonna do here is on grid space, we're gonna do a plus, we're gonna add 1 on every loop, right? So we're gonna set this to 1 on every loop. We're gonna add this to 1. Coming here, and there we go. So we kind of know that every loop is gonna add 1. So this is gonna be starting at 0. So it's gonna be 0, 1, 2, and 3. So this is how much space we want. Sorry, I think that's the wrong one. What we want to do here, sorry, is my bad. We want to create another variable called the current, how's it called? Column, right? Column, right? So we want to make sure that I mistyped that. So we're gonna create a current column variable here, right? That we can actually use to increment. This variable is gonna start in, let's say in 0. That's fine. Let's see how it goes. If it's buggy, then we can always change that logic. Right. So what we're gonna do here on every loop, right? We're gonna do this plus 1. So you're gonna increase by 1 on every single loop, right? And then what we're gonna do here is gonna plug this here for now. And I am gonna do now what we're doing here as well, sorry, is that we need to create another variable called current row as well, right? So we have a current row which will be 0 by default, right? And then what we're doing here, guys, is we're gonna create a branch, and we're gonna do it something like this. Let's unplug that for now. If this, right, we also need to make sure we do a set here, otherwise this will throw some errors. So what we're gonna do here is make sure this does a set. Yeah, and now we can actually work with this. So on every loop, we're gonna get the current row increased by 1, and now what we can do here is we're gonna make sure that is this greater than the grid space, right? So for example, right, let's say we're doing the loop, blah blah blah, is doing the loop, and then what's happening is the current row greater than 4? In this case is 4. If that's true, what we can actually do here is we're gonna get a current row and increase by 1. So we're gonna do a plus 1, and then you put it in here. Remember, the row is if you go back in here, if you put row 2, for example, is that. So the row are the lines on the thing itself. So right now we can put a 0 for now. We may have to increase the space. We may have to do some adjustments on the UI. I'm not sure yet. Right. So what we're gonna do here right now is we're gonna make sure that runs true. So we're gonna basically increase by 1 the current row. If that's greater than the grid space, if it's true, then creates bump the current row, otherwise carry on. And then once we increase the current row here, what we want to do here is we want to set up the current column. We want to set this back to 0 because at that point is a new row, so that has been resetted. I know it's a little bit confusing, but that is basically what we're trying to achieve. We're just trying to achieve on every 4 loops, create a new row. but as you loop, start to index those items again in the proper order. Right. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna hook up this guy there. I am gonna create here a breakpoint. So if you right click, you can search for something called add route node, or best way to do this, you just double click on this line, and there you go, you have another line here. So I'm gonna plug this false in there, because they're gonna do exactly the same thing, they're just gonna use different variables and their behavior will be differently in here. Right, so what we're doing that is we're gonna get the current row here and the current column here, and we're gonna add the grid item as we go through. Right, compile and save. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go back to my event graph, and we kind of have to call this somehow. Remember, we're gonna be calling this method a lot, so make sure that you kind of understand what this thing is doing, because we're gonna be calling this method to populate those slots a lot, so we can actually refresh and get data and live data and things like this. So I'm gonna compile and save, which is nice. I'm gonna go back here to the event graph, and in the populate or update inventory items, we're gonna put it on load for now. Right, so if I press play and press tab, it should be, oh yeah, sorry, let me just go back in here so we can actually delete those items from here. Compile and save. So I'm gonna press play, go back. If I press, I have an empty inventory. If I come in here, get the item, I should have one right now. For some reason, that is coming as in the wrong part of it. So that is to do maybe that we kind of have to go back here. I would say that, okay, we're gonna have to do this in a different way. We're gonna find a better way to do this, but for now, let me try to do something different. Let me remove this for now here. Sorry, let me just remove this. And what I'm gonna do here, I'm just gonna make sure I run this first before I can actually do everything else, because I think that's a problem. I think we have to run this first, make sure it gets the right logic, so the next one will get bumped to the right one, to the proper one. Let me just make sure this is actually working. So if I press play here again, there you go. So it's on the right place. Yeah, so let me show you guys what I did, just in case you didn't follow that. So I just moved these two nodes. So we do this first. We set up the current rows and lines and whatever here first. And then after, we do the bump logic to do here. So what we do here is, I'm just going to comment this for now. So update the current column, right? Then let me just make sure that this is proper organized. Check if the limit has passed. If yes, we need to create another row, right? Remember, the rows, they don't really matter. You can have as many rows you want, but the lines, it needs to be set up by your grid size. Right, so if I press play here, don't have any items, go here, go there, there you go, have an item in there, nice. Right, so right now, let's make it so we can actually add the item icon at least, right? Right, so what I'm gonna do here, I am gonna go to my WP inventory slot item. Remember, that's the item I have created here. And if you notice on the event construct, we kind of have access to the same thing here. So if I get that and I break the items, or you can also do like this as well. You right click in there and then you split the structure ping. I prefer to break in here because in this way I can just get the things that I need from this menu. Right, so I don't get anything messed up. I'm not sure if we're gonna use event tick, so let's use this yet. Right, so on event construct, I am gonna select my icon here, yeah, my icon. Make sure it's a variable. So I'm gonna get the item icon here, and I'm just gonna do a set texture tooltip. Set texture. Set bugs from texture. Bush from texture. Sorry, and then just gonna plug this here. Make sure that you get the icon here and just plug it in there. Let me just put it in here. And now we also have like a little number in there, which is the quantity. So I'm going to change this to say quantity text or something that makes sense to you. Oh, mistype that. So it's quantity text. Make sure it's a variable, compile and save, and go back here and get this. We're going to set some text, right? Make sure we have the set text node, and from here we can just set the stack straight away, right? Nice. And let's see what is actually doing here. So if I press compile and save, now let's press play and see. Actually, I don't think that's gonna work yet, because in here, yeah, we're passing, that's fine. So let's just press play and see what happened. Right, got no items. Coming here, oh, got the item there. Not sure why it's not coming up the quantity yet, but that should be. It looks like almost is getting outdated. So we kind of seen the inventory coming through. So let's check here. Why does the item is not being updated properly?